Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Distinguished Speaker Series. We are very excited to have Lindsay Tobias here with us today. She is going to talk to us about, well, the topic is really interesting. We're all very prone to this topic, eating like the healthiest people on earth, the Blue Zone's recipe for longevity. I know that's an interest for many people, so hang tight and we have an exciting program for you. Thank you again for joining our Distinguished Speaker Series. For those of you who are new to the series and our center, we're the La Jolla Community Center. We are a nonprofit organization here in La Jolla. We provide programs and services for seniors and adults in the community, everything ranging from classes that are every day, from meditation, yoga, art, and special events like musical concert series and speaker series, of course, and art receptions, all of the above. We have it here at the community center. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Nancy Walters. I'm the executive director of the community center, and I'm very happy to have you join us today. We have a little bit of exciting news to announce that the community center has been virtual for about 15 months, and we are actually opening our doors for in-person programming. So we are excited to announce that. That date is June 15th. So if you would like to see the schedule of our in-person classes, as well as the protocol we are following for the in-person classes, please visit our website. It's www.ljcommunitycenter.org. And with that being said, the program for today, we are going to start in just a minute. I'm going to introduce Lindsay, but before then, I would like to encourage you to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, as well as the chat function. If you have any questions, we'll get to those at the end of the hour. So please stay tuned for that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lindsay. So Lindsay Tobias is a certified holistic health coach, nutritionist, and founder of the company Keep Your Pants On, where she has helped over 500 clients stop dieting and start nourishing their bodies sustainably. Lindsay graduated from Liberty University and is certified through Precision Nutrition and the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, where she studied holistic nutrition and intuitive eating with the world's top health and wellness experts. Lindsay believes that food is medicine, with power to balance hormones, restore gut health, and prevent or reverse chronic disease. Rooted in the Power 9 principles found in the Blue Zones, she works to educate and empower you to build your own version of healthy. Fall in love with food without restriction, and experience the longevity and quality of life you deserve. Lindsay believes the world's healthiest people don't diet, they eat naturally. They don't stress over high-intensity workouts. They move enjoyably and often. On their plates, you will find real food, wine, coffee, and chocolate. And in their homes, you will find purpose, family, and stress management techniques. Health doesn't have to be hard. Let's get back to natural. Lindsay's goal is to show her clients what optimal feels like, so they will never settle for normal again. Please help me welcome Lindsay Tobias.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. I do want to say my business is Keep Your Plants On, not to be confused with Keep Your Pants On, which is a very different business model. So I just wanted to clear that up right off the bat. I help people keep their plants, like fruits and vegetables, on their plates, really nothing to do with their pants. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we're going to get started for today. I hope everyone can see this screen all right. Today, we're going to be talking about living and eating for longevity. So I know right off the bat, you're like, why is this young person talking to me about longevity? Well, joke's on you, because I'm actually about 75 years old. I'm just kidding, but I am very excited because in the past 5 years, I have been preaching, teaching, and living the Blue Zones lifestyle and showing this transformation to over 500 clients that have been able to see what Blue Zones looks like in real life. But in this presentation, I want to kind of open that door to see what does Blue Zones look like in your life. So right off the bat, we need to start at what are the Blue Zones? About 19 years ago, Dan Buettner, who is a National Geographic fellow and explorer, traveled the world to find tiny pockets where people live the longest. He found 5 demographically confirmed locations where we have the highest number of centenarians. And what are centenarians? Centenarians are people that are living over 100. And here is the catch. These people aren't just living to 100, they are thriving through 100. So they are having low rates of chronic disease, low rates of any sort of dementia. They're having greater health and vitality than we experience even in our 60s and 70s. They have these lifestyle traits towards longevity and this environment towards longevity that makes health easy. And so these areas are Loma Linda, California, not even that far from where you are right now. There's a section of Seventh-day Adventists that are living long, vibrant lives, about 10 years longer than we do here in America. The Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Ikaria, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. And so in each of these regions, what I want you to take away is the fact that it's not about living more days. These people are living more life. And so Blue Zones has been sharing these findings in countless books, cookbooks, and through Blue Zones projects all over the United States. And so I'm giving you all of the facts, the figures, and the stats today about what it takes to be a Blue Zone. Some of you may think too many stats. About 34% of you may think too many stats. But today you're going to learn that it's not just about what is on your plate. It's about who is across the table from you, why you wake up in the morning, how you move, work, and hope. And so these are the common denominators. This is what the Power 9 principles are. National Geographic and Dan Buettner found that there are 9 principles across these Blue Zones that are kind of binding these areas together, even though they are so spread out across the world. Number 1 is that they move naturally. They have purpose. They downshift. They have an 80% rule with the way that they eat. They have a plant slant. They have wine every single night at 5. They belong. They have loved ones first, and they have the right tribe. And so these are all of the habits that kind of work together to give us the lowest rate of disease, the lowest BMIs, the lowest rate of cardiovascular and chronic disease. Why? We're going to go on a journey together, and we are going to actually observe these geographic locations and how the Power 9 fits in real life. And again, I want you to be asking yourself, how can this fit in my life? So it's time to redefine healthy. Actually, it's way past due, because in America, we define healthy as diets and exercise programs. There is no mention of your mind, soul, and spirit. Healthy is only a definition of the body. And the issue here is that if your soul is at unrest, if your relationships are at unrest, your body is going to suffer. You can be someone who takes wheatgrass shots and does yoga and still suffers with insomnia at night because there is no part of you that exists in isolation. And so wellness is not just weight loss. Look at this photo. This is just in the past 10 years, how many diets have plagued our society. And so the average person does, hear me, 165 diets in their lifetime. This is the average person. So we're not even talking about the dieter who's doing 2, 3, 4 times that many diets in their lifetime. These diets come with a 95% fail rate. So let's define failure. Failing your diet in this study means that you actually have regained your initial amount of weight and then plus some. So diets don't work. We know this. Diets are actually the leading thing that lead to chronic weight gain, because diets also alter our relationship to food. It starts to tell us that foods are good or bad, or that we have to restrict here. Diets give us something to rebel against because our entire environment is shifting us towards towards certain habits, like junk food and convenience stores. And our diets are trying to bring this stark contrast that really doesn't fit our lifestyle. So what I want you to pay attention to here is the beautiful simplicity of longevity. The power of longevity is in the pursuit. No one in the Blue Zones are dieting. No one in the Blue Zones are going to CrossFit gyms or working out intentionally. Their culture, their environment makes health inevitable. They are not intentionally trying to use willpower and discipline in order to be healthy, because actually in the brain, willpower acts like a muscle in that it fatigues. So if you're defining that your health has to be something that you're constantly using willpower and intention towards, your health becomes very fickle. So in this diet industry, this billion-dollar diet industry that is benefiting from us failing, from us losing self-trust and deciding that the only way we can be healthy is if we go back to that diet, because we simply don't understand our food, we don't understand our bodies, and we're told that we're broken. You're not broken. You don't need a quick fix. Let's start from the ground up. We might need to heal this foundation. So what is the environment for longevity? In 1999, the Danish twin study established that 80% of longevity is determined by lifestyle and environment factors, with only 20% determined by genes. This study shows that your family medical history does not have to become your personal identity. We think our ability to live long is linked only to if our mom, our grandma, and our great-grandma have lived long. That's not the case. This study has disproved that, but you know what's passed down from great-grandma to mother just the same way that genes are? Our habits, our lifestyle factors. And so if we can change those environments, if we can change our lifestyle, we can change our health. Our health is a perfect mirror of our habits, and your environment is that invisible hand that is shaping all of your behavior. You're not making as many decisions as you think you are each day. Your environment is making them for you. So let's explore some of the environments that make health easier. This all starts about 125 miles off the coast of Italy, Sardinia. Sardinia, Italy is where you have a population of 10 times more healthy centenarians than anywhere in the world. This is the home to the world's longest living men. And when we say 10 times more healthy centenarians, that means for every 250 births, someone lives past 100. In America, for every 6,000 births, someone lives past 100. This is the first confirmed blue zones area. So in Sardinia, they eat a plant-based diet. Look at how much of their diet is actually categorized by whole grains. That's 47%. Most of their diet is fruits and vegetables that are grown in their own gardens. They do eat meat, but meat is actually what's considered a celebratory food, which means it happens a few times a month and in much smaller portions than we do in the US. So in the US, we have a plate of food, and about half of that plate is for our ribeye. Half of that plate is for our meat. In Sardinia, it's about the size of a deck of cards. And so it is interesting also, if we look back to our physiology, one of the nutrients that we lose when we do cut meat out of our diet is B12. B12 is stored in the body for 2 to 4 years, meaning we do not need meat every single meal in order to supply B12. So I just wanted to debunk that really quick because you're going to see how this all kind of comes together. In Sardinia, there's also a really positive attitude towards aging. As we age, we actually increase social equity, which means that the older you get, the more celebrated you are. Instead of viewing the elderly as recipients of care, they are respected as contributing members of the family. And that family first is one of those beautiful foundational principles of the Blue Zone's loved ones first. So this is what it looks like to move naturally. So Sardinia is a highland area and home to many shepherds who live a lifestyle that demands a great deal of natural movement. Here is Dan Buettner getting beat by a man over 100 years old in arm wrestling. So throughout the day, they are consistently active people. They're not building in their workouts, but they have an understanding that exercise releases endorphins. They know that exercise helps us regulate our hormones, increase blood flow, and increase mental clarity. But they have a very different definition of exercise. In America, when we think of movement, we say, if a little bit is good, then we might as well do all of it. We kind of are what I call sedentary worker-outers, which means that we are literally sitting at our desk or sitting in a chair the majority of our day and then trying to build in a high intensity exercise to quote unquote make up for our sedentary behavior. Kelly Starrett says it this way in his book, Desk Bound, sitting is the new smoking. Sardinia Very, very different. In Sardinia, they are actually the exact opposite. They are active the majority of their day and they're sitting very little. So what they're focusing on in Sardinia is, again, from a physiology standpoint, something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Let's break that down for a little bit. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis means what are the calories that you are burning when you are not intentionally exercising? And this non-exercise activity thermogenesis is so much higher in Sardinia because they are walking often and everywhere. They walk to buy their bread. They are constantly chopping their vegetables. They are gardening. They are constantly moving. And so what would it look like in your life if you increased your movement? Instead of waiting all day to fit in your workout, what would it look like if you actually added consistent movement and prioritized that over inconsistent intensity? And so I'll tell you what it looks like right now. Rothwell is a British researcher who studied NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and he found that people like them, like those in Sardinia, that are moving consistently are actually burning 800 to 2,500 calories more every single day than those who are sitting all day and then trying to get their workout in. I have nothing against exercise. I have nothing against that marathon that you would like to do, but know that when it comes to longevity, you are better off moving often rather than being sedentary and then trying to fit in your workout. Okay, moving on to loved ones first. This is another one of our Power 9 principles. In Sardinia, they commit to a life partner. This can add up to 3 years of life expectancy. I want that to sink in for a second. How beautiful is that? 3 years of life expectancy because of spending your life and your time with someone that you are loved and that loves you. In Sardinia, they understand that food is medicine and that food is information, that every single bite of food we take broadcasts a set of instructions to our cells, instructions to either create inflammation and create disease or help heal it. They understand that food works to heal the body and give the body what it needs. And therefore, there's actually very little processed food. In America, we have over 350 junk food advertisements that are shoved down our throats everywhere we go. It's not the case in Sardinia. Their food is unprocessed. And even though they're eating the bread and the butter and all of the things that we've actually demonized here in America, they're eating it in a starkly different way. And it is always fresh, it is always unprocessed, and it always is made with love. Okay, so let's talk about wine. This is Cannonau wine. In Sardinia, they actually drink a little bit of red wine with their friends and family every single night around 5. We see this in the Power 9 principles as wine at 5. So their homemade Cannonau wine has the highest level of flavonoids, which are antioxidants, of any wine in the world. And this means that when they are having this wine with their plate of vibrant fruits and vegetables in front of them, they are absorbing 20 to 30% more antioxidants, more nutrients, and more vitamins and minerals than they would be without that wine. And so it's not about what they're eating, it's how they're eating. This wine is always consumed in community. It brings people together rather than using alcohol as a source of distraction, as a way to look away or to ease frustration. The why behind food is different in Sardinia. And so let's talk about some of the top longevity foods from Sardinia. Barley. We saw that 48% of their intake was from whole grains. So what are those whole grains that they're consuming? Barley has a lower glycemic index than wheat bread, which puts less stress on the pancreas and kidneys. It's higher protein, magnesium, and fiber. And then on the other side, we have sourdough, which is another one of their most loved grains that they're eating a ton of every single day. But sourdough is different than regular bread. Why? Sourdough is made with live lactobacilli, which is a probiotic. And so these prebiotics actually feed the good bacteria in our gut. And so instead of having some of that inflammatory yeast, they are made with prebiotics. How beautiful is that? Potatoes and kohlrabi. So kohlrabi is a cabbage type food filled with cancer fighting properties. Their tomatoes are filled with antioxidants like lycopene, which fight heart disease and cancer. Vitamin C, potassium, folate, and vitamin K are just small portions of some of the most amazing benefits that these anti-aging tomatoes can have. They eat a ton of beans. So one of the Blue Zone's principles right off the bat of how to eat is eating a ton of beans and a ton of nuts. Blue Zone's research says that they encourage a handful of nuts every single day and a cup of beans every single day to provide your body with the protein and the nutrients that it needs. Here's what it can look like in real life. Here are some traditional Sardinian meals filled with beans, herbs, spices, and grains. We have minestrone, we have herb soups, we have a lot of whole grains filled with a lot of different olive oils and olives. There are so many beautiful foods that we have not touched here because we've come so accustomed to trading the culture and beauty and art of food for convenience. And so I want to encourage you, what would it look like if we brought these foods back to our table? If you got one or two different types of foods that may feel a little bit out of your comfort zone that I was speaking about before, I'll let you know what would happen. Your health would change. So let's move on to Okinawa. Okinawa is the home of the world's longest living women, and Okinawa is filled with so many secrets. So we have the longest disability-free life expectancy in the world. Okinawans are living 7 years longer than Americans. They have 5 times as many centenarians, 1/5 the rate of dementia, breast and colon cancer, 1/6 the rate of cardiovascular disease. These are critical stats, especially these last two, because 80% of Americans over the age of 60 will develop one of these 3 diseases in their lifetimes. In fact, in 2006, cardiovascular disease accounted for $403 billion in medical costs and loss of productivity. Okinawa holds secrets to be able to reverse this. So, one of my favorite quotes from Dan Buettner: "The calculus of aging offers us 2 options. We can live a shorter life with more years of disability, or we could live the longest possible life with the fewest bad years. The choice is largely up to us," and I'll say it slightly different. The choice is largely up to your habits. So in Okinawa, the average life expectancy for an Okinawan woman, I want you to actually take a moment and guess for me. What do you think that the average life expectancy is for Okinawan women? 86 years is the average, which means that there are so many that are living well beyond that. In Okinawa, they are 90% plant-based. This is completely blasting our keto and our paleo and our low carb diets. Okinawans eat about 90% carbohydrates, and they are living the longest of anywhere in the world. So let's talk about the quality of those carbohydrates, because they're not eating cupcakes. What are they eating? Most of their diet is based on vegetables and beans, with most of their calories coming from purple and orange sweet potatoes. It's not only a high anti-inflammatory diet, but a high antioxidant one. And by the way, let's talk about what are antioxidants, because I don't want you going through this presentation hearing a bunch of buzzwords and not really understanding what it means. So antioxidants are foods that are fighting oxidation, that oxidative process in the body. I want you to think of your body like a machine. You are a machine. And as that machine is exposed to oxygen oxidation, it starts to rust. And that rust is that aging process. And so that rust is what is happening to our cells to allow us to age. Antioxidants are food chemicals that literally fight the aging process and try and give your cells proliferation without all of this oxidation, without all of this rust. They are so beautiful, medicinal, and healing to the body. So less than 1% of the Okinawan diet is fish, less than 1% is meat, and less than 1% is dairy and eggs. And they did this naturally. So what you will find in all of the blue zones is that they actually do eat pretty differently, but they eat naturally based on what is available to them geographically. They're not, one thing that is very much the same is no processed food. Very little processed food. Everything is homemade. And so in Okinawa, this is where one of my favorite truths of the blue zones lives. Hara Hachi Bu. Hara Hachi Bu is the Confucian statement. It's actually a 2,500-year-old Confucian statement that roughly translates to eat until you are 80% full. This has been something that mothers and fathers have passed down to their children. They say before every single meal. It's not just about what they're eating in Okinawa, but how they are eating and how much they're eating. So they eat mindfully, they have smaller portions, and before eating, they recite this statement, Hara Hachibu. And so what this allows them to do is actually eat slowly and eat with respect. What I mean by that is they want to eat until 80% full, not just to eat less, but to be able to move on with their life, to be able to, after a meal, move on with what excites them and what they were built to do, instead of feeling sluggish and full and not being able to be fully present until an hour or two after a meal. They are very intentional about how they're eating and allowing the food that they're eating to respect their body, not be something that actually severs that relationship. And so, again, my job is to show you the physiology behind this. We have an entire brain in our stomach. It's called our enteric nervous system. And this is not the nervous system that's in our brain, our central nervous system. And so this enteric nervous system is filled with hormones and neuropathways. And these hormones in our stomach, we have hunger and fullness hormones. If any of you have ever counted your calories in the past, we have our own calorie counter in our stomach that is supposed to signal to us when we are done eating, when we need food, and when we are full. And so it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for the hormones in our stomach to signal to our brain that we are full. The average American finishes their meal in 6 to 7 minutes. So there's a very strong possibility that we are finishing every single meal without actually listening to our bodies. There's a strong possibility that we are finishing every single meal overeating. And so if we were to bring into our plate this idea of hara hachibu, to stop eating when 80% full, we would start to challenge what full really means. In our all-you-can-eat buffets, full means when our stomach is physically distended or we can't eat anymore. But what if we started to ask ourselves, what would it look like to eat until you are satisfied? Eat until you are nourished, rather than trying to eat until you are full or until you are stuffed. You would feel very different. You should be able to go for a walk after eating. You should be able to stretch your body after eating. So what are they eating? We have a ton of rice, tofu, and plants in the Okinawan diet. In this slide right here, you may notice 0 of these. To our right, we have Goya. Goya is the spiky cucumber that has about 4 times the amount of vitamin C than a lemon. It stimulates digestion. Papaya is at the top left over here, and it is full of enzymes that help reduce bloating and aid in recovery and digestion. Purple sweet potatoes on the bottom here are full of vitamins and minerals, but also anthocyanin. Anthocyanin is what gives this beautiful purple color, but also helps fight cancer. It has blood pressure lowering properties, and it actually increases our eyesight. Okinawans believe in the power of food, and they eat food not just that tastes good, because all of these foods taste amazing and they prepare it in ways that interest them and bring joy and community, but they believe in the power of food to heal the body. So one of my favorite things about the Okinawan culture is moai. Moai is the fact that no part of you thrives in isolation. We know from several notable studies, including the Framingham Heart Study, that isolation and loneliness is harmful to our health. It's actually debilitating to our health. We felt that this year. We're still feeling this now. 20 years ago, the average American had 3 close friends. Now that number is around 1. The Okinawan culture is committed to close social networks, often known as moais. Moais are small groups of people, usually formed in childhood, that have cultivated friendships into long-lasting lifetime bonds. They support each other in good times and bad. They live next to each other. Some moai members have been living together for over 100 years. This is community. So this is a Moai that has lived almost an entire century together, side by side, meeting daily. What would it do to your health if you knew you had a group of people that were constantly there for you? That didn't say, oh, you kind of owe me for when I went to pick you up to get gas. You knew they would bend over backwards for you, which encouraged you to then bend over backwards for them. This Moai right here is arguing about who their high school crush found cuter. How amazing is this to have lived life with these people? So I want to ask you right now, who are your 3 closest friends? Because if you show me your 3 closest friends, I will show you your future. The people closest to you are shaping your norms. So if the people closest to you have value systems or habits that you do not want in your life, then I do want to encourage you to maybe reach out and start some new relationships. If the 3 people closest to you are overweight or obese, you have a 150% chance of also being overweight, obese, and more susceptible to disease. So there are 2 times in your life that you are most likely to die, 2 years of your life. Number 1 is the first year that you come into this world. So the first year of your life is a pretty dangerous year for you, a lot of new experiences. But let me ask you, what is the second most dangerous year of your life? I want you to think about this for a second. The second most dangerous year of your life is the year that you retire. Okinawans do not even have a word for retire. They shift based on their capabilities. Most of them do not have jobs that they want to get out of. They do not spend the week waiting for the weekend or their 30s and 40s waiting for retirement. Hear me, they live. They have a word called ikigai, which means, why do you wake up in the morning? Another translation would be a reason for being. And here I've kind of documented what it looks like to have an ikigai. So what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. Start to bring together your passion, your profession, your vocation, and your mission all towards your ikigai. In America, we define why we wake up in the morning mostly related to our career, our job. That's our purpose. But what if you expanded your purpose? National Geographic found that the stronger your answer to the question, why do you wake up in the morning, the longer you will live. So I want to ask you, why do you wake up in the morning? With my clients, this can be a very overwhelming question. And it's interesting because we can go our entire lives without asking ourselves this question of, why do I wake up in the morning? Because the pace of our lives do not allow us to look inward that intentionally. And so slow down right now and ask yourself, why do I wake up in the morning? And if you don't have a strong answer to that question, I'll hit you with another one. Who can you bless today? I have my clients every single time they cannot answer that question, start to look outward and say, who can I bless today? Because that is going to get you closer towards understanding why you're here on this planet and what your reason for being is, than staying inward ever will. No part of you thrives in isolation. This guy knows why he wakes up in the morning. And this guy is well over 100 years old and still ripped. There are 100 years between this woman and her great-great-granddaughter. When Buettner asked her what it feels like to hold a great-great-granddaughter, she put her head back and said, it feels like leaping into heaven. This is what's called the grandmother effect. And this is one of the principles of the Blue Zones that keep loved ones first. The grandmother effect shows that kids that have their grandmother a part of their home and a part of their life have lower disease and mortality rates. Grandmothers, which anthropologist Hawkins says, are what makes us human. So, welcome to Ikaria. Ikaria, Greece is the island where people forget to die. And if there's one thing that you can take away from today is, why don't we just simply forget to die? That's a really great way to have longevity. So Ikaria is full of dryness, forests, seas, and mountains. People travel from all over the world to Ikaria seeking health and wellness. Why? Ikaria is filled with tons of movement, community, and colorful foods. They have the purest form of the Mediterranean diet of anywhere on Earth. In America, if you hit 85, you have a 50% chance of developing dementia. In Ikaria, if you hit 85, you actually have a 10% chance. That is a huge difference because Icarians live like we were created to live, simply, naturally, joyfully. So what does it look like to eat like an Icarian? I said before that they have the most pure version of the Mediterranean diet. And so let's talk about what that is. The Mediterranean diet is filled with healthy carbohydrates like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. And it's also filled with really high quality fats like their Greek olive oil, which, by the way, worldwide studies have found that the consumption of olive oil is correlated with a heightened immune system, anti-inflammatory properties, and protection against Alzheimer's. So if olive oil, Greek olive oil, high quality unpurposed olive oil, is such a strong staple of their diet, and it is linked to a decreased risk of dementia, and we're living in the place with the lowest risk of dementia, do you think those two things are correlated? So right off the bat, if you're looking for homework, if you're looking to write something down, start buying higher quality olive oil. Look for Greek olive oils. Look for olive oils that are in very dark glass bottles. These very cheap plastic clear bottles are getting oxidized very quickly and turning rancid. So they're losing that molecular structure that makes them so dynamic in our bodies. One of the most amazing things about Icaria is their use of herbs. And so we're going to actually get into herbs in that next slide. But starting off, these herbs have more antioxidants than blueberries. They're wild greens that are added to almost every single meal. We have so many beautiful studies on coffee. Coffee is like this fear food in America that we think, oh, I always have to be drinking less, but coffee becomes a fear food because our stress management is so poor here in the US. So coffee is going to stimulate our production of cortisol, which is our stress hormone. But in Icaria, coffee actually has the lowest amounts of caffeine, number one, and is also filled with polyphenols and antioxidants. They eat and drink in a way that is different. So what they are eating is not the issue or the solution, but how they are eating is. They have about a cup of coffee in the morning and then they go on with their day. So if your day is fueled by needing to have consistent highs of coffee and caffeine and cortisol spikes, which is again your stress hormone, then maybe there's a reliance that's being built there. And so I would actually encourage you to start where you are. Instead of cutting everything out, maybe shifting the way in which you consume coffee. Maybe if you're going from 4 cups a day, start with 3. The issue in America is we're constantly trying to catapult someone into where they should be with their health rather than acknowledging where they are right now. In Icaria, they eat a lot of potatoes. Again, another fear food here in America that all these low carb diets are absolutely saying is the enemy. Fiber, potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B6, and coupled with its lack of cholesterol, all of this is super supportive of our heart health. Potatoes contain a lot of fiber that actually slows the absorption of sugar and allows us to feel fuller for longer and decreases the total amount of cholesterol in the blood. So how different would it be if when you looked at food, you were asking yourself, what is this doing for me? Rather than the question, is this going to make me lose weight or gain weight? Instead of looking at potatoes as a carb, how amazing is it to actually understand what it's doing for you? It's the equivalent of you eating and drinking vitamins. How amazing is this that we have every single thing we need in order to be healthy in front of us, and we're constantly looking for perversions and distortions. Greek honey is one of the most nutritional natural foods filled with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Honey is used for centuries for its antibacterial and antiviral properties. You've probably drizzled honey in your tea when you have a cold or a cough because you know intrinsically that food is medicine. I don't care what you heard. I love food puns, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But Icarians are not just eating their herbs, they are drinking them. They're having 3 to 4 cups of herbal teas every single day. Teas infused with oregano, dandelion, sage, and rosemary. These beautiful herbs can come with 200% more antioxidants than food. So if we're talking about bang for our buck, I need you to start looking at what it would look like in your day to start including more herbs. Start with turmeric. Turmeric is a really great seasoning that you can put onto your food. They're having turmeric all of the time in Ikaria. Start adding a little bit of black pepper, which can increase your body's ability to take in that turmeric and use that antioxidant by 2,000 to 3,000%. Food is amazing. So herbs also act as a diuretic, which actually help to also allow our blood pressure to decrease. There is a difference between having supplements versus real foods. When you have real foods, your body extracts multiple nutrients at a time. So if you're eating some broccoli, you're getting about 23% of your daily recommended intake of vitamin A. Then you're having some sweet potato, which you get a little bit more over there, which is very different. And when we sprint to the store and get supplements, we are getting about 400% of our daily recommended intake of vitamin A. So essentially, you're spending a lot of money to pee out bright colors. Stop doing this. Your supplements should be a supplement to an already healthy, balanced, beautiful lifestyle, not a replacement of it. In Ikaria, here are some meals that you might be seeing. So I want to give you some ideas of what this could look like in your life. At the top, we have stuffed potatoes with beans, and we have a lot of broccoli and greens as well. Tomatoes are a huge staple in the Mediterranean diet as well. In the bottom here, we have tabbouleh. There is packed with grains and herbs, and also a lot of beautiful, vibrant colors. Tabbouleh is one of my favorite dishes. It's seasoned with a lot of lemon, which is so great for your digestion and actually stimulates our metabolism. To our right over here, we have a veggie wild grain soup. All of these things, if you want to know how to eat healthier, do yourself a favor and start to throw a bunch of vegetables into a pot with some stock and some herbs and a little bit of lemon, and just thank me later. This is how we eat here in Ikaria, and it's absolutely delicious. This is quite interesting. So in Ikaria, you probably saw that they're actually eating a good amount of dairy. But what is the dairy that they're consuming actually made up of? Goat's milk. Goat's milk is what is the 65 to 72% of all dairy that is consumed globally is goat's milk. Whereas in America, about 90% is cow's milk. It's very, very different nutritional profile. So goat's milk has more protein than cow's milk, soy milk, or nut milks. And it doesn't have as much of the lactose. So 40% of humans stop producing enough lactase, which is that enzyme that helps us break down lactose between the ages of 2 and 5. And so a lot of functional medicine doctors that I've worked with and for throughout the years have constantly reiterated that it's not a matter of if dairy produces inflammation, it's how much. I call goat cheese the gateway cheese because a lot of people that struggle with dairy actually do really well with goat's milk instead of cow's milk because it uses a completely different protein. So if you're someone who struggles with dairy or thinks that it might be beneficial for you to decrease your dairy intake, start here, look at some goat's milk. In Ikaria, napping is a sport. This is one of those Blue Zones principles, downshift. Napping gives us a 35% chance lower of dying from heart disease because the pace of our life is unsuitable with how we were built to live. So if we can decrease our stress hormones and decrease our resting heart rate, we can actually slow our aging process. Taking a nap daily, or maybe for you, you take a nap once every 2 months, let's make it once every month, then maybe once every week. Maybe taking that downtime, and you're going to learn about the Sabbath, but maybe taking this downtime 1 or 2 days a week where we can build in naps to your daily structure. Your body will thank you for it. Welcome to Nicoya. The Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica has the most amazing social networks of maybe any of the Blue Zones. Nicoyan centenarians get frequent visits from neighbors. They know how to listen, laugh, and appreciate what they have. They eat to live. So eating fewer calories actually appears to be one of the surest ways to add years to your life. Nicoyans eat a light dinner in the evening. So you know that saying that you have breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and dinner like a pauper? Nicoyans do that. naturally. It's a part of the way that they live. It's a part of their pace of life. And so in Nicoya, centenarians ate a traditional Mesoamerican diet highlighted with the three sisters of agriculture. That's squash, corn, and beans. Let's dive into that. So they have the highest amount of fish for obvious reasons. They are right on the water. And so, like I said, these people do eat differently, but the basics and the principles are, hey, what is around us? What is naturally available? That is how we are naturally supposed to be eating. They are constantly preparing their foods. So when I talked a little bit earlier about our metabolic output or our metabolism increasing when we are chopping our vegetables and making our food, they are not stocking their pantry. They're not stocking their fridge. Their fridge is usually stocked with very little, and they actually make every single meal from scratch. Some of you listening right now just had a mini heart attack. Breathe for a second. Maybe this looks like just making one meal a day at home from scratch. This decreases our urgency to eat. There isn't an urgency in the culture of Nicoya. And so the more flavor you are adding to your dish, the more chemical benefits. Phytochemicals, phyto means plant, chemicals means chemicals. Imagine that. So they add a lot of cilantro and herbs to their meals, and that is what gives their meals all of the flavor they're looking for. Here are some potential Nicoyan meals. So we have black beans and rice with plantains. We have homemade corn tortillas, which I have not yet tasted from Nicoya Peninsula, but Dan Buettner says it is the best tortilla he has ever had in his life. And then we have quesado here at the bottom being prepared with jalapenos and cumin and a ton of beans, and also, you heard it here, herbs. They eat seasonally. So one of the ways that we can have a healthy gut, we talk a lot about gut health here in America. One of the ways that we can have a healthy gut is to eat seasonally. The seasons have provided us with everything we need to be able to switch the types of foods we're eating throughout the year. Grocery stores have kind of torn that down. So when you go into a grocery store, you're probably grabbing similar things every single time. But I want to encourage you, start looking at what is seasonally ready. In Nicoya Peninsula and all the blue zones, they eat seasonally, meaning that there are different produce, fruits and vegetables that are available at different times of the year, that are ripe at different times of the year. And they eat those different fruits and vegetables. So if you are eating only apples, bananas, and cucumbers all year long, you are missing out on the nutrients that come from broccoli, that come from asparagus, and that come from red cabbage. Start changing the types of foods that you are eating so you are giving your body new nutritional profiles every single month. Start where you are right now. Add 2 different fruits and vegetables to your grocery list this week. Again, your body will thank you. One of the most amazing portions of the Nicoya Peninsula is Plan de Vida. Dr. Robert Butler's 11-year study followed healthy people between the ages of 65 and 92 and showed that those expressing having clear goals or a defined purpose live longer. Same thing as Ikigai. We have Ikigai and then we have Plan de Vida. So it's the same purpose in different cultures, that they've known that this is what adds to long life. They have a relationship between their body and their environment. They work the ground. They absorb vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, not just a vitamin, that's in charge of all of these processes in the body. They have a beautiful relationship with their environment, and they respect the earth. They respect their bodies. So welcome to Loma Linda. This is not too far from you. This is about 60 miles inland from Los Angeles. We have our last blue zone. So this area is filled with Seventh-day Adventists. These Seventh-day Adventists are living up to 10 years longer than the average American, which is a pretty big deal because they are Americans. So why are they living longer? All but 5 of the 263 centenarians we interviewed belong to some faith-based community. This is one of those Power 9 principles of belong. Denomination doesn't even seem to matter. Research shows that attending faith-based services 4 to 5 times per month will add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy. Movement is built into the culture. of Loma Linda. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they focus on whole, real foods of the earth. And that's actually built into their customs and their culture and the Holy Scriptures, which is where they get all of their feedback from. So, what is Sabbath? Seventh-day Adventists are known for resting on the seventh day of the week, which they believe to be Saturday. The word rested in Genesis 2 is Shabbat, which in Hebrew means to stop, cease, and celebrate. On the seventh day, God rested. And this is why the average Adventist lived 10 years longer than the average California. So let's talk about what that means. The average lifespan is 4,500 weeks. If we break that into days, that is actually 10 years. So now let's take one day of the week out of that equation and let's rest on one day of the week. That equals 10 years. And so the Sabbath isn't just about resting. It's about restoring. It's about bringing back life tenfold, allowing the ground to rest, allowing their bodies to rest, allowing their mind to rest, and also celebrating. And that's one of those beautiful words that we don't really equate with rest, is to be able to celebrate our ability to cease, our ability to work the ground, to delight in their God and in their God's word. So what happens when we don't rest? Fatigue, burnout, anxiety, depression, busyness, starved relationships, worn down immune system, low energy, anger, tension, confusion, emptiness. These are the signs of a life without rest. And so the average Adventists teach their children how to cook, eat, and rest. From their Holy Scriptures, we see, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, every tree in which the fruit of a tree yielding seed, it should be as meat for you to eat. They do not eat meat in this area of the Blue Zones, and they have these potlucks that bring community together after every single church service. So one of those best tricks for debloating is the practice of saying grace. Before every single meal, Seventh-day Adventists actually say grace. They thank God, who they believe the food came from, for that food. And let me ask you, from our culture where we are so fixated on almost fearing the food in front of us, is this okay? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this going to make me sick, gain weight, lose weight? Imagine if we took thankfulness and we actually were thankful for the food in front of us. It's interesting because even non-religious researchers will all say that saying grace before meals actually help our digestion. It also helps us not to bring the pace of our day into the pace of our meal. What would it look like for you to be thankful for your food? Oats, beans, nuts, seeds, soups, stews, and salads are a hallmark of the Loma Linda diet. Breakfast is usually all natural oats with nuts, berries, and seeds, and snacks throughout the day, salads throughout the day as well. Longevity is a gift. This is Marge. Dan Buettner described his ride with Marge as one of the most terrifying times of his life. She looked at him and said, I feel sexier at 104 than 103. This is Marge's morning routine, starting with 20 minutes on her bike and some lightweight training. And she also volunteers at the old folks' home, which are her own words. So now let's get back into what this means for you. And I'm wrapping up very quickly. Health clubs take $20 billion. Supplements in America take $28 billion. Diets take $60.9 billion. Your healthy life should not just be a list of all the things that you do not eat, but a jubilant exaltation of what you do eat. How is it that we were supposed to do these things? One of the most amazing portions of Blue Zones is that we bring it back to simplicity. It's not about a new list of foods that you have to cut out. It's about bringing it back to the basics, getting outside, eating natural foods that come from the earth, not fearing carbohydrates, and actually making your meals up of primarily carbohydrates and primarily colorful foods that your body can take information from. Movement is consistent and enjoyable, because you will not enjoy or you will not sustain what you do not enjoy. Sleep is a foundation. Community is a foundation. Let's get back to the basics for a second because there's so much power in the basics. So right off the bat, let's blue zone your home. I want you to think of your environment right now. Changing yourself is very hard, but as much as possible, I want to encourage you to change your environment, not yourself. How easy is it to have coffee in the morning when you own a Keurig? How hard is it to make a smoothie in the morning if your smoothie is actually, or your blender is actually on a top shelf and you have to move a stair over in order to get it? We need to make the things that we want to do easy. I want your home to be almost hard to be unhealthy inside of. With the blue zones, we want your health to be inevitable, to be easy. So if that means you want to run in the morning, sleep in your shoes. Have your shoes right next to your bed. If that means that you want to eat more herbs, have them readily available and beautiful in your fridge. What you have at eyesight will be consumed 87% more often. So adherence to diets is absolutely plummeting. And let's look at what these different diets look like in all of the blue zones. That blue portion is plants. These are how much of the plants are actually going to be the staple portion of the diet. This is the average longevity diet. So primarily plants, 95% plants actually, 65% carbohydrates, adding in grains, sweet potatoes, and greens, a cup of beans daily, meat less than 5 times per month. So start actually swapping meat for other protein sources like beans, like nuts, seeds, like tofu, tempeh. Fish is also something that would be less than 3 times per week, which is much more than the meat recommendation. Let's decrease sugar. Let's decrease cow dairy. Have nuts as snacks and start having water, tea, and coffee, and also wine instead of sugary drinks. So what would it look like if we actually swapped meat for beans 1 time a day? What would it look like if we started to bring pleasure, satisfaction, not rigidity and rules? Blue zones is a lifestyle. It is not just a diet. So start looking at what your non-negotiables are. And I actually would encourage you to start putting down on a piece of paper in front of you, what are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you genuinely enjoy with your food? Let's not change those. Let's start focusing on what is in your control and what is in your capacity. And so foods for longevity, the most medicinal foods on the planet are the ones that were planted there. Start grocery shopping differently, because if you do not have different foods inside of your environment, you will not eat different foods inside of your environment. And so again, these are some of the foods that we really recommend: olive oil, wine, grains, fruit, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. And lastly, here are some tangible takeaways. Add herbs to your meals. Herbs should be a part of your day every single day, whether that's herbal teas or adding herbs onto your salads. I love adding mint onto my salads. I love adding cilantro onto my tacos. Swap sugary drinks for water, coffee, and wine. Focus first on what you're adding in. Stop defining your health by what you don't eat and start defining it by what you do. So add in as many vibrant fruits and vegetables as you possibly can. Maybe starting your day with fruit, or starting your day with oatmeal with berries and nuts and seeds on top. Learn about seasonal eating. Look at what's readily available in your environment right now and say, hey, it's summertime right now. What is available in La Jolla during summertime? Change the size of your plates, which will naturally help you eat less without you naturally being aware. Practice Hara Hachibu, which is 80% full, eating until 80% full. Start eating socially. Try building in 1 meal a day where you are eating with others rather than eating on the go, eating in isolation by yourself. And lastly, let's change your why. Let's start defining wellness as living long, vibrant life that is full of moments, not just full of days, not just absent of disease, but full of life. And so I hope that you were able to take something away from all of this today. I hope that you're able to make this your own, because this has the power to genuinely change the way that you eat, the way that you move, and the way that you live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was wonderful. Lots of value in 1 hour. So thank you so much for sharing. One of the questions that came in, or maybe a comment, if you can give us an example of what a typical day looks like for you, in terms of what you consume, and if you could share what that would look like.
I love this question. And what's really interesting is when I answer this question, you are going to automatically say, oh, I should be eating the same exact thing. I've worked with over 500 clients, and one of the things that I pride myself on is that every single one of them eat differently. So what I'm giving you right now is an idea, not a rule book to start to follow. But I do like starting my day off with as many nutrients as possible. So if I'm not really hungry in the morning, I still want to kickstart my metabolism with some fruit. I might move on, and when I am hungry in about an hour after this, then I would have some oatmeal with some nut butter on top, some coconut, blueberries. For lunch, I love to have a grain bowl with some greens. Like I said, I'm on this really intense kick right now, having mint on my salads with some cucumber, tomato, and chickpeas. For lunch, or for dinner, depends on how active I am that day, but I'll probably fit in some snacks there. And then for dinner, I'll probably have some sort of noodle bowl, or I'll have some sort of stew or soup. I love greens, I love beans, and I love nuts. So those are definitely a staple of my diet. And it is always, hear me, always followed with chocolate. I love dark chocolate, as high of a percentage as possible, but this is just something that works for me, gives me energy throughout the day, and does look different at different seasons of my life.
Great, thank you. So along that vein, Lindsay, you mentioned starting your day off early and breaking that fast. For those who intermittent fast, what do you say about that?
Intermittent fasting is interesting because it's going to be different for different groups of people. For example, women in their reproductive years actually do not experience as much of a benefit from intermittent fasting because it's actually a stressor on the body. Men and women outside of their reproductive years, so women who have already gone through menopause, are the ones that get to experience all of those benefits of autophagy and cellular proliferation and increased healing and weight loss. But females during their reproductive years actually do not see those same results most of the time. So for my clients that are in their reproductive years, I don't actually usually encourage intermittent fasting. If you are doing that, then it would be the same thing, just later in the day.
Got it. Thank you. Lindsay, we still have a few more questions, but just because we're at 11 o'clock, how can people get a hold of you or contact you in case they want to be a client or learn more, take a class? How can they get in touch with you?
Yes. Oh, thank you. So like I said, my business is Keep Your Plants On. And it has been the wildest journey and privilege to work with Blue Zones. So if you're looking for more Blue Zones principles, please go to bluezones.com. There are so many resources. There are recipe planners and guides and meal prep guides as well. And if you're looking for a nutritionist or a health coach, then come my way. It is howtokeepyourplantson.com. And that's where I have more resources for you on more one-on-one coaching scenarios.
Great, thank you. And to reiterate, it's plants, not pants. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Very personal.
Good. So one other question, Lindsay, you suggest taking a nap. I've heard I have such a hard time sleeping at night. Do you think she should avoid napping? This is coming from Fran.
Oh, Fran, what's so hard about these questions is there's about 10 more questions that need to be asked before an answer is actually given to you. One of those first questions that need to be asked are, why are you having a hard time sleeping at night? When you set your head down on the pillow, are you having racing thoughts, which is going to be something that shows us that our cortisol levels are off throughout the day? Are we keeping a screen on in the bedroom or before bed, which is also interfering with our sleep hormones? So if you are having a hard time sleeping at night because you're just wired and awake, then maybe napping wouldn't be the best for you. And maybe our first step for you would be getting you to bed sooner, getting you to bed at an earlier time to increase that time that you are asleep. Sleep is where we rest, digest, and restore. So that's where we recover from all stressors, positive and negative. So I would absolutely encourage that you're prioritizing sleep, whether it happens during the day or at night. Start with at night.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. If there's another question for Lindsay, we have time for one more, but other than that, it's a lot of great comments thanking you and saying how wonderful you were. So great feedback so far. So if we don't have an additional question, again, if you want to rewatch this presentation, we're going to post it on our website, and that'll be available within a week or so. So look for that, and we'll also make sure to add Lindsay's contact information for anyone who is interested in seeking out any more additional help. So just a lot of thank yous coming in the chat. So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you everyone for joining us for our Distinguished Speaker Series. Any additional information about the Community Center and our opening date and events and programs that we have going on, please visit our website. It's www.ljcommunitycenter.org. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much.